All right, well, we will get started on this session about key trends in software user assistance. And I'm Joe Walensky, and I'm not going to have this video up the whole time. For a lot of people, it just ends up looking like just a blurred image anyways, depending on bandwidth. But I just wanted you to see that there is somebody else on the other end of this transmission. And I'm going to talk about trends in software user assistance for about 35 minutes or so. And I tend to speak quickly in webinars just because of the nature of the medium. And everybody's muted right now. And I'll just leave that the case for now. And then at the end, I'll ask for questions. And then if anybody wants to be unmuted for that purpose, then we can do it then. So we'll just get started. I've been involved with software user assistance for quite a long time now, so this is always a fun topic for me. I'm always updating it, and so hopefully there'll be something interesting here for experienced as well as people new to the user assistance area. Before we get into it, I do want to thank Adobe for being one of the sponsors for this webinar series. They've made it possible by helping to support my time to put these materials together, as well as have the GoToMeeting available for the meetings. So I'd like to thank them, and hopefully you can check out their products, RoboHelp, FrameMaker, Captivate, and so on. Well, let's just get into it. I've been using this slide about comprehensive support options for quite a while, even though things are always evolving, just because over the last 5 or 6 years, my main theme about doing my own projects is just always thinking about comprehensive ways of providing support and trying to think of all the different ways that I might be able to support my customers. It may only be 2 or 3 of these items at any given project, but I try not to just stay focused on a help system, a PDF, and leave it at that, because there's so many different ways to be able to get information out to people nowadays. One of the areas I want to start with, first of all, is video training, which is one of the areas that technical communicators are involved in, but to a lesser extent than a lot of other disciplines. And I really see that that continues to grow as a way to present information to customers. It's very engaging. It's a way that younger people enjoy looking at information, and I think you really need to embrace that as not only an alternative way to present information, but potentially the primary way to present information. And if you're not doing the videos for your products, well, somebody else is probably doing videos about your products, and so I definitely would think it's worth getting the skills to learn about that. This particular example is done by AutoCAD, and they've increased their use of videos quite a lot over the years, and they do a really good job at production. They also host all of it on YouTube, so they make a really good use of the fact that they get free hosting, plus they get the whole community involvement, as well as Google integration and statistics about who's consuming that information. Overall, I think it's a good example of an organization that is really using that medium to be able to showcase the visual aspects of their tool. Now, there's a number of tools you can use for video. Interestingly, one of the tools is one that also is really big about user communities. I mentioned the user communities built into YouTube. Camtasia Studios is a video authoring tool from TechSmith, and that company's really good about exploiting user communities in a lot of different ways. Here you see that they have a product page on Facebook, but they do a lot of other social media elements as well. Here's their Twitter page, and they're pretty active with this, and I think Twitter's a really interesting way to present information. It's something that definitely isn't a traditional form of user assistance, yet one of the cool things about it is that everybody that is following you wants your information. So having a Twitter feed for a documentation department, it seems like a no-brainer to me. There's no cost involved in getting started. It's relatively easy to work with, and your tweets can have links to updates in your documentation, tutorials, and things like that that come out. So I think it's just really a big win to have a Twitter feed for your product. And here Camtasia has also done the work to do a very attractive page. And this is just an example of one of the articles that you could link to from one of the Twitter announcements. And I have links located in the slides, but I'll also be providing the slides to your leadership after the conclusion of the presentation, so you don't have to copy all of these down. You'll have that available to you. Moving away from videos, but still staying with community engagement, I really like the idea of thinking about a blog for software products, something that's different from reference and procedure information. This Intuit small business blog is related to their small business software, and the articles are more like magazine articles. It's a different type of writing. They're more like stories. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. The authors get to have a byline, which is always nice to have visibility for ourselves. And you can have procedural information inside of these blog articles. I'd encourage you to take a look at that, because I think it's just another way of presenting information that's different from the more traditional online help. And here's a look at one of those articles where you can see that byline. You can see that there's an image integrated with that. And then also on the left-hand side, you can see that once again it's connected to the social media activities that Intuit set up for this particular interaction. And you see that repeatedly when you're looking at when you're looking at sites like this now. The idea of getting out the message to people, helping form that community, and I think it is relevant to the user assistance world. It's not just something that that's only used for more mainstream type community activities. And if you're doing something like that, I think it also helps to consider doing your own web portal. I know the Inuit community has that, where there's links to a lot of different types of user assistance components that they've developed. I think that's always helpful. We want to have context-sensitive help. We want to embed our help directly into the user interface. But if we're doing a lot of different things like Twitter and Facebook and blogs and videos, I think we should have our own page that we control for our documentation department, and be able to point people to one place if they wanted to find that overall repository of information. Moving into a different direction, but relevant to how people get to that information, is the idea of embracing search engines. And I think this is one of the most important areas for us to be thinking about, because I personally feel that that by far more than not, when people go looking for information about the software that they're using, they initiate that search through Google. Even if there's context-sensitive links in the software right in front of them, even if there's a big help button right in front of them, people are still going to Google. And I think you need to embrace that. You need, one way or another, to get all your information on a public-facing server. This is something that I do an entire webinar just on this topic, so I can't go into a lot of detail there. But that's really the main thing, is if your information is siloed in Windows help files and other proprietary formats, it's not going to be available. If it's not on the public web, it's not going to be available to Google. And you really need to think about that as being very important today. And then once you've done that, to think about how you can do search engine optimization to make sure that Google rates your information highly and that your information rises to the top of the hit list, as it does in this example for the search string print a calendar and Outlook. So if I type that into Google, the top 2 hits are the desired result in 2 important ways. One, both of those hits are from the authority figure, in this case Microsoft, and so if it was our information, we'd want information from our company to be up at the top. And second, if you go to these links, it's actually the right information. Microsoft puts out hundreds of thousands of pages of documents, but that search string connected to exactly the right solution pages. In this example, you can see what the help looks like both in the web-based version and the locally installed version of Outlook. They're similar, but there are differences, and it's more important than ever to have some type of single source repository for your content and be able to send out mirror versions of that content to different output targets. So one for a locally installed system, one for your web help system. And there are some subtle differences that you have to have in the different topics. For example, in the web-based version, you want to have the version number on each and every page, which is something you wouldn't normally do for the locally installed version. But it's just something to think about, and hopefully you're already moving forward in that area. Another topic that I think is really important, that unfortunately I think the technical communication community has been a little bit slow to deal with, is where we fit in with mobile devices. I've been working with mobile apps for about 3 years now, and there definitely is a place for getting involved. The thing is, it's just a completely different way of thinking about where our value add is as technical communicators, and creating volumes of documentation simply doesn't fit in with small screen devices and with mobile devices. And it's really important to start thinking about what your role is going to be as we have more and more mobile devices is the primary way that people are going to be accessing information. And it's still hard for us to see that from the enterprise side, but it's continuing to grow, and I'm afraid that all of a sudden it's going to be a situation where everybody's carrying around tablets and smartphones, even at the office, at the expense of desktop computing in a lot of cases. If you're interested in seeing what people are doing for mobile help, you can take a look at the mobile UA screenshot gallery that I have on my blog, where I've collected a couple hundred screen captures of different apps to show how that information is being presented. And one of the things I think will strike you is that for the most part, I'd say 95% of the screenshots that you see there, the online help doesn't look anything like a traditional help system. There's not navigation panes, there's not 3 levels of table of contents, it's not a wordy, densely worded procedure. It's very much different. The information tends to be presented in a way where it looks like the rest of the app. It is integrated directly with the other app. You're not pushed out to a separate browser, whether that's Safari or Chrome or whatever the mobile device might have. And the Ancestry.com is a good example of that. There's very useful information in that particular topic. It's presented briefly, and I can quickly get back to work with the app. I think it's important to just thinking about how we're going to adjust our designs in this new world. I just wrote an article about help for Microsoft apps in Windows Phone 8, where I looked at the help for one of Microsoft's apps on Windows Phone 8, and these two panels that you see here represent actually just 2 out of 7 windowfuls of information for one topic page. So essentially, looked at these as 2 windowfuls. We're talking about scrolling 6 times to see the entire topic, and it's really densely populated. Interestingly, the same content is available to be viewed through the desktop browser. Not exactly sure why. I guess it's just an alternate way of presenting that information. But you can, if you look at it on the desktop browser, that information looks fine. It looks like a well-formatted topic, and it fits the desktop browser experience well. But it's clear that whoever was writing this information didn't think about how it was going to be looked at and accessed in a small screen device. And although the formatting is fairly well done, although there's nothing wrong about the writing of it, I think that it's just way too long to be practical for people that are on the go. And that's the other thing to be thinking about with mobile apps, is it's not just a small screen, it's that people are moving. They're moving through a train station, and they're trying to find that information while they're trying to get some work done with their phone. They're not sitting at their office desk, and it definitely is a different environment. I also wrote an article about helping an app that Microsoft put out for Outlook for the iPhone, and well, there were just a lot of problems here. It was just surprising to see a big company not, just fail in a lot of ways in terms of how they presented this information. But the single biggest fail is that the help information isn't presented natively within the app. It goes out to the iPhone Safari browser, which to me is just an immediate fail. I've been involved in a lot of usability tests, and you watch people work with hierarchies on small screen devices, and they just hate it. And even though our popular help authoring tools provide output to mobile, technically it can take a web help version and reduce it to an iPhone size version, but frankly it's just crap. And that's just how I feel about it. If you don't believe me, then at least test your work out with some of your customers and see if in fact they are happy with that experience. And I'd be surprised if they are. I've been working on the second edition of my mobile UA book and thinking through a lot of ideas. And in terms of putting UA, I've kind of coalesced around what I call the 4 C's, which are the things that I look at, which is, first of all, anything that you present to the customer has to be contextual so that it appears in the user interface proximate to where they need it, when they need it. It's not, again, in a separate browser window. Also that it conforms to the way that the app looks. I mentioned that on the previous slide with that Ancestry.com example. Conditional text, I think, is really important, where it's the idea that you're going to have information that appears in a small screen device that's maybe presented in a different way than for the large screen device, where maybe you've changed a 3-sentence paragraph to a 1-sentence paragraph, and that programmatically you present information to customers at the time that they need it rather than having them go look for it in help. So if somebody's used a feature 5 or 6 times, you may pop up a tip that gives them some information about possibly about how to improve their experience. And then finally, that the information overall is very concise. I just did a Google Hangout where several user assistance aficionados were talking about help in Windows 8, which is probably something that a lot of you haven't even started thinking about. It used to be that new versions of Windows were a big deal, and new versions of Windows Help were a big deal, and now we have a new version of Windows, actually the second, the major revision to version 8, which is 8.1, and it doesn't have, it doesn't use compiled WinHelp HTML help for the modern app side of things. You can still provide the same type of help for the other applications. But for the desktop apps, it's definitely a different situation. So here you see an eBay example. If you move to the settings charm, you'll find a item for support. If you click on that, it brings you to another panel where you'd click on customer support, and then ultimately it presents a web page. And I don't think this is a very good example of how to present help information in modern apps. I think there's better ways to do it, but it's something that I'm thinking about it, and I'll probably be writing some articles about that and hopefully doing some work with it in the near future. And then there's also a similar example for the help provided in Evernote. And I mentioned small screen devices and mobile devices, but I think it's important just to recognize that software is appearing in so many different ways in different devices that we didn't even think about before. The image in the top right corner is from a Tesla, which was at my local mall. So I got in there and had a demo with that screen, and that entire screen is video, including the gauges. Everything in there is digital in that big dash screen, and it's beautiful. It's just a gorgeous screen. It's nicer than a lot of laptop screens, and you can present a whole bunch of information. And whether or not it's a good idea to be playing with apps as you're flying down the interstate at 65 miles an hour, that's that ship has sailed. These automotive companies are figuring out ways to put apps into cars, and then so from my perspective, it's thinking about what my role is in providing help information in that situation. In addition to different device types, we also have a lot of different interaction types, and I think it's important to be thinking about that because for most of my career as a technical communicator, we're really just dealing with the mouse and the keyboard, but suddenly, just since the first iPhone came out, we have touch, we have voice, we have hand gestures, we still have the stylus. The remote control isn't going away, and in fact, as more and more apps are consumed in the living room, it may be that the remote control is one of the primary interaction devices. And then there's emerging items like near-field communications, and that brings up the question is how we're going to support that information with all these different platforms as we move forward. Because with a lot of these interactions, you need to be able to explain to people how the interactions even work. For example, in this Lexus ad, if you wave your phone in front of this Wired magazine ad, it will automatically load a page about the Lexus. But you need to know to do that, and so there's actually instructions on the screen showing how to position your phone next to the page. I just saw this device being advertised. Adobe makes eye tracking hardware and software, and they have an eye control bar which lets you actually control the user interface with your eyes. So another add-on to all the other items on that chart that I just showed, where you can look at things and be the equivalent of taps and double taps. I still don't see how exactly they make that work, but I know Adobe makes really sophisticated equipment from my user experience work. And just to see how this is relevant or what this means to us, take a look at this example from two help topics in Windows 8. These are both help topics that come with Windows 8, and so I assume they're written by Microsoft Teams, but they have two different points of view. And if you look at the one on the top left, it says swipe in from the right edge of the screen, tap settings, and then tap change PC settings. In parens, if you're using a mouse, point to the upper right corner, blah, blah, blah. So the point of view here is clearly that it's touch first, but then it's also going to include information about the mouse. And you compare that to the screen capture that's on the bottom, and step 1, tap or click. Step 2, in the left pane, tap or click. So here the point of view is that touch and the mouse are equal. Now's the time I think you have to be considering what your strategy is going to be for that. And interestingly here, though, with Windows 8, that platform is supposed to be device agnostic, where it's supposed to be relatively easy to implement voice commands, hand gestures of the Connect style, working with a stylus. And so as we get these other interaction types, what are these writers going to do? You know, what's their forward-thinking plan? Hopefully they already have one, because Windows 8 supports these different interaction types. And so in some cases, it may be that you'll need to decide to go with a generic verb like select instead of tap or click. And that's something that I talk a lot about in another webinar. I mentioned the idea of single source authoring, and that also ties in with being able to do responsive design and adaptive content. And I like to show this example where you have single source page of content, but it appears in different ways on different devices, and intelligently different on different devices. It's not just scrunched down. You're thinking about what information types should be included for different device types, and HTML5, CSS, and especially media query help to make a technique like this possible. And then what you can get as output from your authoring tool then are different versions of a procedure for the different devices. And so here you see output for the laptop, the phone, and a TV using the icon language for the Microsoft Connect. Getting away from the topic of touch, there are a few other miscellaneous items I just wanted to mention. One, that embedding helpful text into the user interface, embedded assistance, it's known by a lot of different terms. That to me is still one of the most valuable ways that you can present information to customers, and far exceeds anything that you can provide in an external help topic that someone has to click a link to get to. It really makes you think about how your users are experiencing and processing the information on the page at a very granular level, looking at all the different labels. Are the labels for the different sections of the page written in in the right form? Is all the language helping people understand what information to put into what fields? Using hint lines. For example, here on this Ancestry.com screen, under last name, it says, for women, use a maiden name. That's an important tip with this product that really helps you get better results rather than putting in the married family name. It also uses drop downs in certain places like the why do we ask brown shaded area, and all of this is presented in a way where you don't have to go for help for the most part. And so I think it's important to always think about that. And personally, I think technical communicators should be in charge of vetting every single word that goes on any page of software anywhere. That's just the area that we're most experienced in working with. Another miscellaneous item is print manuals. Obviously, print manuals and the digital PDF equivalents are used less and less. However, good PDF is still of interest to certain categories of people, and I like to include this screen, which is the iPhone PDF put out by Apple. And yes, every one of their iPhones, every one of the iPads has a manual associated with it, an 8.5 by 11 size PDF, and they're nice. They're well written. They have descriptive color graphics in them. You wouldn't, for the most part, most people don't even know that they exist, but if you have hundreds of millions of users and 1% of your customers like this kind of information, then you're supporting, in that case, 1 million people that would want to process information that way. But even if you're a much smaller company, I think this shows that if somebody was dissing your PDF manuals, that I think this is a good example to show that even very forward-looking companies still use that documentation component. And then just the final item is I really like the idea of being active about getting helpful information to customers, especially in early days of engagement when they first start working with software. Things like this Pandora example where after you get the product as a customer, you're sent information that's specifically helpful information, not upgrades, not other types of marketing features. In this case, all of the information and all of these links I found to be very helpful as a Pandora user. And I think that's a way to create engagement with your customers and get out the word about really important things that you want them to know about as they first start working with your product. Of course, something like this means that you're going to have to work out the relationship with the marketing team, since they usually hold the keys to all of the email lists. So that brings me to the end of the topics I wanted to cover. This would be a good time to type in any questions that you have in chat, and I could read through those, and if you'd like to do that audibly, I could adjust that as well. While you're thinking about questions to type in the chat, I do want to mention our East Coast event coming up, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be in Newport, Rhode Island in late October, and the special price through next Tuesday, I think, if you put in the promo code STC, the cost will be just $6.95 for the 2 full days of educational sessions as well as some social activities on the 27th, which is a Sunday, where we're going to go around on a bus tour of Newport and then branch off from that to do some mansion tours and just have some fun in that way. So if you've never been to that area, it may be something of interest to you, and I'd ask you, even if you're not interested, to pass on the word to your friends and colleagues about that. I want to thank Adobe again for helping to support this, and then I included some links to the resource directory on my website and my blog. So I'm just looking to see if there is any questions coming through. I haven't seen anything yet, and if you don't, that's okay. My email address will be on the slides that you get, so feel free to send me a message, a question, if you have that something pops into your mind after this. I don't see any other questions right now. So I think I will just then, I guess, finalize things just by thanking you for participating in this, listening in, and I hope you're able to get some interesting ideas about things you might want to do with your own software user assistants, and hopefully I'll be able to see you at some future live event in person rather than this virtual method. And other than that, just have great success with all of your projects this year. Thank you.